as the trials and tribulations of Zoom. So guys, yeah, thanks everybody for joining us this evening. I'm delighted to be back for another round of these winter wellness seminars. As Stephen said, my name's Laura Kealy, and I'm of Bridge Nutrition. I founded Bridge Nutrition about 3 years ago. It's a health, nutrition and performance nutrition consultancy. Anybody that maybe has followed me on social media or anything like that probably knows my approach to nutrition is very straightforward. There's an awful lot of faff and nonsense out there about how you should eat, what you should eat, and there's a lot of miscommunication and basically a lot of nonsense out there. So my aim is to break nutrition down into very simple, practical, applicable, bite-sized pieces, and I suppose helping the general public to understand what they should eat every day for their energy, for their health, to enjoy food, to make sure that they're hitting all of their requirements, and basically to help them not waste money or get confused about these things. So I'm just going to share my screen here, and sorry, Stephen, I think you may have to make me the host again. Oh no, sorry, I got it here. We'll get there. So tonight we're going to cover basically kind of an introduction to nutrition. And of course, if you're someone that is well versed in nutrition, you may actually know a lot of the stuff we're going to cover, but that's okay, because use it as, I suppose, an affirmation that you're doing the right thing, or to boost your confidence that you're doing you're getting the right foods, and you're hitting your targets. But a lot of us won't know this, because let's face it, guys, we're never taught this in school. This isn't something that was on the curriculum for a junior cert or inter cert, or whenever you were back in school. It's not even now. There's very little taught on nutrition. So it's brilliant, I think, that Fingal are running these seminars. Hopefully you'll take a lot out of it. We're going to run for about roughly maybe 50 minutes, and then I'll stay on and do question and answers for as long as we need to. I'm a very I suppose quick talker. I will try and slow down. I'm real Irish like that. I love to ramble on, but if you do have any questions, you can pop them in the chat box, or at the end you can take yourself off mute, and we do have some questions that people already put in when they were signing up, so we'll get through those as well. If I know that I'm going to cover your question maybe next week or the week after, I might just ask to hold on to it till then, because we do have a lot to cover, and nutrition is such a huge area of topics. But we're going to cover the basics tonight. So tonight's topics are going to essentially look at nutrition for optimal health, because that's what we're always aiming for with our nutrition. We're looking to be at our healthiest. Although we do eat for fun and we eat for social reasons, ultimately every day we eat to give ourselves energy and to make sure that we're hitting those requirements that our body needs to be healthy. So we're going to find exactly how to do that, but we're going to do it with balance. Because a lot of people have this all or nothing, oh, it's January, can't touch a piece of chocolate, can't have a crisp, have to only live on, apples and oranges for the whole month. We don't want to do that. We want to have a balance, because when we can find balance, we can, bring in healthy habits long term. We're going to look at keeping our bodies fueled with the right food. I mean, that's a big thing, because a lot of people fuel incorrectly, and that means that they kind of restrict and overeat, and then have high energy and then low energy. We're going to look at our essential nutrients that we need. We're going to look at snacking, the big one for January, some supplements, and then just a little bit about sleep at the end. But looking at our wellness, and this is a big one, because that's a word that's really thrown around a lot, isn't it? You see it on Instagram or Facebook, or people call themselves wellness gurus. I don't really like that, but wellness, although it sounds a little bit kind of faffy, it is a real thing. And it's essentially what wellness is. It encompasses all the different areas of our health. All right. And health isn't just about eating, 5 a day, or exercise isn't just about making sure you get your 10,000 steps. Our wellness is made up of many things. All right. So like our physical wellness, our mental wellness, big thing. Okay. Our spiritual wellness, emotional, social, environmental. Okay. So making sure that we look after all of these areas, because this is what ultimately keeps us healthy and happy. All right. The areas of your wellness that I'm going to touch on and I'm going to cover are really, obviously, nutrition's the big one, but we're going to talk a little bit about exercise in the coming weeks, and a little bit mindfulness. Now, that's not my area of expertise, but because they all go hand in hand, we do touch on them as well. So just remember that being healthy, it's not just about being physically healthy. All right. We do want to be spiritually, emotionally, and mentally healthy as well. And it's not just about, keeping fit and eating well. We need to look after everything, including our mental health, mindfulness, and just taking time to care for all of those areas as well. So let's look at the basics here. What is nutrition? All right. Now, again, if I asked anybody on the street, they probably give me a different answer for what they consider nutrition to be. But just to put it in black and white, essentially, it's eating a variety of foods that help us meet the nutrient targets our body needs to work optimally. And what I mean by that is to make sure that, our lungs are working well, our digestive system's working well, we've got good hormonal health, we've got good cognitive function, good cardio function. All of that is influenced by the food we eat. So when we have optimal nutrition, we've got enough energy to get through the day. We've got no soreness. We're alert and we're bright. We're not fatigued during the day, and then we're also that our immune systems are quite strong as well, and we feel physically strong, and that's all influenced by what we eat. Because ultimately what you eat, it fuels your body throughout the day. And I'm not talking about people who run marathons or anybody that, plays football or soccer or anything like that. Like, just to fuel your body to get through the day, get up in the morning, get the kids out to school, get to work, walk the dog, and whatever it is you do, it's fueled by your food. Okay. And what you eat and drink, it repairs and refuels your body. Excuse me, I'm jumping ahead, way ahead of myself. So when your body gets broken down, either by maybe you get a little bit sick, or maybe you've got to, you did a big workout or whatever it is, your food will repair that and refuel you from when you've used some of your fuels. And then ultimately what you eat and drink will determine how healthy you are inside and out. Okay. So let's look at nutrition goals. And this is a big thing. I always talk about goals, and I'm going to talk lots to you about goals because every time we have food, for the most part, it should be towards a goal. If we have a banana, that's towards our 5-a-day goal. If we have, whole grain bread, that's towards our fiber goal. You might not be thinking of it like that, but when you can get into that mindset, it helps you kind of eat with structure. So when we talk about ultimate, like overall goals for our nutrition, well, one is health. We definitely want to have a health goal. That should be everybody's priority, to make sure that we're eating for health. All right. And then for some people, if you're in the gym, or maybe you're joined a new running gang, or maybe you've just picked up walking and you want to get fitter by walking, that's a performance goal. So we're going to kind of try to eat towards that as well. And then our third one, and again, this will be for, a lot of people listening to me right now will have this as well. It's a body composition goal. So what I mean by that is sorry guys, we'll just make sure everyone's kept on mute there if you can.
I thought there'd be many more people.
That's great. That always happens. But we'll have a body composition goal. So what I mean by that is that some of us will be looking to maybe lose some body fat or gain some muscle, or both. Now, the thing is, guys, what I find a lot of people do is that they try to eat for all of these goals. So they'll try to literally do everything at once, and they're looking for this, what we call the sweet spot in the middle. This is near impossible to do. So what I recommend for you is pick a goal and focus on that. Okay. So if if you've got a body composition goal, you want to lose weight, focus on that. Sometimes if you're doing that, you're not going to hit all your health goals, and that's okay, because you're not going to do it for a short period of time. Or if it's a health goal, when you're meeting all your requirements, you may not be doing the right thing to change your body composition. So the recommendation is to focus on one thing at a time. Now, what I recommend you focus on is your health and performance. There's a GA saying, and that's kind of take your points and the goals will come. If you focus on health and performance, you'll most likely meet your body composition goals. It'll usually just follow on. So if you just kind of focus on, okay, I'm going to walk for 1 hour a day for the month of January, and I'm going to make sure that I eat, my fruit and veg in order to, I'll eat my fruit and veg, and I'll make sure that I have good carbs with my breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and that will give me fuel to do my hour walk every day. If you focus on those two things, it's more than likely that you'll end up losing a little bit of weight to go with it as well. So my point is that if we get too caught up on a goal like this, we may overlook the other two. So just really kind of laser focus that. Looking at nutrition 101. So this is the basics of nutrition that not everybody knows. So that's fine, but it's something that we all should know. And you will know after this. So food is split up into two groups of nutrients. Okay. The first one is macronutrients. And we're called macro because they're in large amounts in our food. Okay, so our macronutrients are our carbohydrates, our proteins, and our fats. And fats are also called lipids. That's what's on the screen there. But it's carbs, fats, and proteins. You've probably heard of them, but maybe you didn't know what group they're in. So they're macronutrients. Now, they're the main source of energy in our diet. Food is made up of one, two, or all three of these macronutrients. Okay, so say milk. Milk has carbohydrate, it has protein, and it has fat. Eggs, they're mainly made up of fat with a little bit of protein, but no carbs. Bread is made up of mainly carbs, a little bit of protein, a little bit of fat. So food is made up of kind of in different degrees, one, two, or all three of these macronutrients. Micronutrients, then, again, you've probably heard of vitamins and minerals, but maybe you didn't know they were called micronutrients. They're in very small amounts in our food. They don't contribute calories to our diets, but what they do is they make sure that different areas of our health are functioning optimally. So they're very essential for us to be healthy. That's why, and we get them from a wide variety of foods. So that's why you need a wide variety of food in your diet. Micronutrient deficiency is, or not even deficiency, but kind of under eating on our micronutrients is common enough when we don't have a varied diet or when we have a very processed diet. So this is why we focus on very basic foods. But I will talk about that in a few slides time, but it's just to get your head around those two kind of concepts, macro and micronutrients, and the different nutrients within those. So carbs, fats, proteins, and vitamins and minerals. So what we're going to focus on this evening is looking at carbs, fats, and proteins. We will cover vitamins and minerals in the coming weeks, but we need all three of these macronutrients in our diet, just to different degrees. Okay, so the main bulk of our diet will be from carbohydrates. Protein will make up a good bit as well, and then fat makes up the rest. Looking at the Eat Well plate, and I'm sure maybe some people have seen this before, if we take that concept and just apply it to a plate, you can see here whole grains will make up kind of a quarter of our plate, healthy protein a quarter, but veggies are up there. Now, over the next few weeks, I'm going to be like a bit of a parrot, and anybody who's maybe ever been on a seminar with me before will know that I am fruit and veg mad. We do not get enough in our diets in Ireland. All right. Most people don't even get 5 a day, and I actually recommend more. So if there's one thing you want to do this year in 2022, it's improve your fruit and veg intake. It will stand to you. I promise you, you will see the benefits of it if you can get a really good fruit and veg intake in your diet. So really, they should be making up half your plate. You can see it there. We have our plate, and that fruit and veg area is there. So like fruit, we can snack on fruit throughout the day. It's a little bit harder to snack on veg unless you're a little bit like Bugs Bunny going around with a carrot. So I would say your veg for your lunch and dinner should make up half your plate, 3 or 4 different varieties. And then whole grains, of course. So pasta, rice, spuds, sweet potato, couscous, lentils, whatever you like, making up about a quarter there. And then healthy proteins. We have healthy fats there, of course, which I'll be talking about in a second, and then water, so our hydration, which I will talk about as well. A big question I always get asked, guys, is, Laura, how do I eat healthy? What's a good diet? Like what can I, what's the best food to eat, or what's the best diet to be on? And I don't do anything like that. I don't have everybody eats differently. I mean, you need to accept that. You never compare your diet to somebody else's, because you're not that person essentially. So this is why a lot of these like diets that you read about in the media, they fail for most people. So the ketogenic diet, the 5-2 diet, paleo, if it fits your macros, intermittent fasting, whatever you want to call it, whatever diet you've heard of, Atkins, most of them don't work long term for people because they're too rigid, because everybody has their own style of eating. And that's completely personal to you. It's completely subjective. So you forget about diets that you have to follow rigidly out there. I want you to forget about all those diets. If you can just bring in certain things that you do every day and build on habits, that's much better. So in general, we try to see the way. I'm never going to use words like you have to or you can't, or good and bad. I'm not going to use any words like that around your nutrition. We're going to try to eat breakfast. Now, you don't have to eat breakfast to be healthy. But the studies have shown us that people that do eat breakfast tend to eat healthier throughout the day. That makes sense. So by no means does eating breakfast automatically mean that you're healthy, but those that have, start their day with porridge and some seeds and a banana and some honey tend to make better choices throughout the day. Because what happens is you skip breakfast and then you get into the office. No, we're not in the office anymore, but I'm just a hypothetical situation. You let it go to 11 o'clock. then you're having a cappuccino and a muffin, and then you're kind of ravenous again, and then you don't really want to make your lunch. You're like, oh, I'll just go down to the shop, or go down to down to Spar, and I'm going to get a barbecue chicken roll with cheese and mayonnaise or whatever it is, kind of low nutrient, high calorie food. And then kind of you're on that roll for the day. So if we can get a good breakfast in at the start of the day, a healthy, nutritious breakfast in at the start of the day, that tends to set us up for better choices throughout the rest of the day. And that's what the studies show. So that's what I recommend. Preparing most of your meals at home. Another big one. You can get involved with your food. You can make decisions, conscious decisions. You can decide how many vegetables you put in, what size your what meat you put in, leaving condiments out, things like that. And with COVID, we tend to be eating more at home anyway. So that is something I do recommend. The big one, 4 to 5 portions of veg, 2 to 3 portions of fruit per day. That is more than probably you'll hear the government guidelines on, but that's because that's how important fruit and veg is in our diet. Now, if you're nowhere near that, if you are you can only probably think of one fruit or veg you have a day, that's okay. All right. That's no problem at all. Don't think, oh God, how do I get to 8? God, that's way too big. I'll never be able to do that. Just go to 2 pieces, 2 apples a day, 1 banana, 1 apple a day, 1, a carrot with dinner and a banana a day. And then try and do that for a couple of weeks and then move it up to 3. It's the long game we're playing with this. We do not do short, quick fixes. We want to play the long game. So it's building on what you can do right now. I'd rather you add in things. So if you're in the habit now at 11 o'clock, you have a cappuccino and you have 5 chocolate biscuits and that's your snack to lunchtime. Instead of cutting out those biscuits, I would rather you just add a banana in there, add an apple in there. You're still enjoying what you usually have, but you're adding a more nutritious snack in with it. And that's stacking. That is far more successful than just cutting out the chocolate biscuits, because now you're just miserable eating a banana thinking about chocolate biscuits, and that's not what we want. So we build on these things, but that's the target that I would set. Eating regularly throughout the day as well. That's just to make sure you're giving yourself opportunity to have nutritious food and to not let yourself go hungry. Lean meats, healthy fats, whole grains, which we'll discuss in a second. Now we're avoiding. Again, this isn't saying we can't do it. We're just avoiding it. Skipping meals and leaving long periods of time between eating. And this, for a lot of people, will just lead to snacking, quick fixes, high sugary processed foods, and then kind of going through that cycle. So if we can kind of schedule ourselves a little bit better, get a more of a meal and snack structure in place, that tends to be a little bit, I suppose, more beneficial for people. Eating out regularly throughout the weeks, that just tends to leave us open for making more indulgent choices, we'll say. And then regularly eating high processed foods, ready-made meals, or low nutrient foods. So again, those highly processed foods that are quick fixes tend to be lower in nutrients. It's not to say cut them out completely, but it's just making sure that we're more focusing on these foods. So again, this is about finding the balance. More of these foods. These are your friends. These help you stay fit, stay healthy, live longer, offset disease, keep your immune system strong. This is what we use this food for. Lean meats, poultry, turkey, chicken, oily fish, lean cuts of steak once a week, absolutely grand, no bother on that. Any kind of fish. And we're looking for those low saturated fat meats, whole grains. So that's why we kind of choose the brown variety. It just gives us a little bit more fiber, a little bit more protein. Fruit and veg, our beans, peas, pulses, guys. These are great for just really cheaply bulking up your meals. If you've got a family at home and you're cooking for a few of you, throw in a couple of and you're making a stew or a bolognese, throw in a couple of tins of chickpeas, kidney beans, broad beans, whatever kind of beans you like. It ups the protein, it ups the fiber, it bulks out the meal. So you get more bang for your buck with that meal, makes it go longer. And then, of course, our healthy fats. So avocado, salmon, extra virgin olive oil, nuts and seeds. These should all be in your diet daily. Now, less of the other guys. You see here, I'm not saying cut them out. Look, takeaways are very much a part of even a family tradition, a family schedule in some houses. I don't recommend you have them any more than kind of once every 2 weeks. That's what I would say. It's no problem with that. You should be focusing on more nutritious foods around that. There's no issue in going to the cinema and having popcorn and minstrels, Maltesers, whatever you like. You're not doing it every day. A lot of people get really focused on these foods and say, well, I can't have anything I like. No, you can. It's just you need to bring it back and have it on an occasion rather than regularly. Because when this becomes the bulk of your intake, it means you're not getting enough fiber in your diet, you're not getting enough protein, you're not getting enough vitamins and minerals, healthy fats. And that's when you see ill health. So these foods are fine when eaten in moderation. I recommend you do that just for balance and sanity. Because who doesn't love, like, have a few drinks, next day you get a takeaway because you don't want to cook. There's no issue with that. The issue is when you're having it 3, 4, 5 times a week, when you're snacking on crisp and chocolate and fizzy drinks throughout the day, because that becomes your source of energy and you don't get any nutrients. And the thing is about these foods, and this is the techie name on them, they're calorie dense, hyper palatable foods. And all that means is that calorie dense, they're high in energy. So they tend to add a lot of calories to your diet that you don't use for energy. And hyper palatable, which just means that they taste really nice. They're high in fat, high in salt, high in sugar, which means that we get a sensory overload and we just want to eat more and more. I don't know about you, but I can definitely sit down and eat, a full big bag of red Doritos and not a bother to me. But could I eat 3 or 4 chicken breasts in a row? Probably not, because there's a lot of differences in the food. So these foods are designed to make us overeat. It kind of switches off that signal to our brain that we're full. It suppresses that hormone that actually tells us that we're full, and that's what they're designed to do. So, we need to reduce them in our diets. I'm all about this 80-20 approach, which means that if 80% of the time you can make the right choices, you can be fully healthy, fully fit, and functioning optimally. But you need to make sure that you're having that balance. And yeah, there's no issue having a fry once a week, as long as you're not having it 3 or 4 times a week. There's no issue with having even a takeaway for lunch with your pals at work, whatever it is, as long as it's not happening every day. If you can find this balance, you're far more likely to choose healthy foods on a long-term basis, because you don't feel restricted. You don't feel miserable about it. Find food that you like as well. Make sure the healthy food that you're having, the nutritious food that you're having, is actually food you like the taste of. Seeing people go on diets where they don't like the food they're eating because they have a weight loss end goal, it's a disaster to me, because it's never going to last. You might lose weight in the short term, but you'll probably gain it back because you haven't brought in a system that works for you to help you get to your goal. When we look at our 3 main macronutrients, okay, we discussed them earlier on, we've got carbs, fats, and proteins. So the first one we're going to look at here is carbohydrates. And carbohydrates, how I like to describe them, it's fuel for your body. Our body's primary preferred fuel source is carbohydrate. All right, we've heard about blood sugars, things like that. That's because we use blood sugar for fuel. Now, carbs have got an absolute rotten rep the last couple of decades. We've gone totally carb phobic, anti-carb. Carbs are the devil. People are terrified of them, terrified to have a slice of bread. So, we really need to get rid of that, because there's nothing wrong with carbohydrates if we pick the right one. See, the thing is that with the carb umbrella, we have we've got donuts, ice cream, crisps, chocolate because they've got sources of carbohydrate as well. We put them under the same umbrella as sweet potatoes, whole grain bread, porridge, pasta. So, this is why they get the bad rep. Yes, I'm telling you to kind of reduce these kind of foods, but the good carbs, the healthy carbs, the nutritious carbs should absolutely be a part of your diet. In fact, your main meals should have a source of these carbohydrates. We said, about a quarter of your plate, or maybe a couple of fistfuls. And that's how you'll measure it out. And these are all really healthy foods. They're full of B vitamins. Sweet potatoes full of vitamin A. We've got a lot of fiber there in the whole grain varieties. And ultimately, you'll feel better, you feel stronger, feel more energized if you can bring these into your main meals, because they'll fuel you throughout the day. And not only that, with carbohydrates, the right ones, are a source of fiber. And in Ireland, we don't get enough fiber in our diet. And this nutrient is completely forgotten about, in my opinion. Nearly every client that I work with, as soon as we do a little bit of a food diary, we see that they're way, way, way too low on fiber. Now, the recommendation is up to 30 grams. That's what for an adult in Ireland, we recommend 30 grams. The majority of people that I work with, and the research shows that we're all probably only getting about between 15 and 18 grams. So it's just too low. All right. Now, and why I'm being so, I suppose, strong about this, we'll say, is because fiber has a huge impact on our lifelong health. So our heart health, our brain health, our gut health, our digestive health, fiber impacts all of that. So when we don't get enough of it over a long period of time, we can see ill health. Okay. So obviously your first sign that you may be low on fiber is constipation and bloating. So make sure you're always tracking your bowel habits. It's something that you should just kind of be able to ream off. How many times do I go to the toilet per week? Think about it, notice it, pay attention to it, pay attention to your stool. A lot of your health signals are in that as well. If you've never done it, that can be your homework for after this, before next week. When we do get enough fiber, we're reducing our risk of heart disease, certain cancers. It can improve your skin health, digestive health, and help with weight loss. So if you're someone that's trying to lose weight at the moment, you absolutely need to get enough fiber in your diet. And I can't stress that enough because a lot of my weight loss clients, the first thing I see is that they don't get enough fiber in their diets. We've got two different types of fiber, soluble and insoluble. So we must get kind of varieties of both. If you eat a very varied plant-based diet, and what I mean by plant-based, I don't mean vegetarian. I just mean that you eat loads of plants, which I recommend you to do. If you can get a lot of different type of plants in your diet, you'll more than likely hit fiber targets. But just because I'm always about the practical visual elements of these nutrients, here's a couple of slides on really easy ways to get fiber in your diet. So you can see here, we all get about between 15 and 18 grams. We're aiming for 30. So things like avocados, full of healthy fats, full of fiber. A pear has nearly 6 grams of fiber. So if you're someone that's worried about the fiber intake, start eating a pear a day. You're going to get one of your fruit portions in, so that's good. You're going to get a good dose of fiber and lots of other nutrients. Same with raspberries, broccoli. So you'll see here, you can see all of it's fruit and veg are really going to help you. So definitely up that if you're worried about your fiber intake. Nuts and seeds are a big one as well. So a handful of nuts per day, 2 tablespoons of seeds on your breakfast, that's perfect. And of course your beans, peas, pulses, anything like that. There's nothing wrong with a tin of baked beans either, folks. That's another kind of food that got a bad rep. And I don't know anybody here, but I remember growing up in the 90s in Ireland, and definitely beans on toast was a staple in my house growing up. So there's nothing wrong with that. Like you can see a small container of beans here, about half a tin of beans is nearly 8 grams of fiber. Porridge, bran flakes, whole grain bread. You can see it's foods that not only contain fiber, but they're also going to help you hit fruit and veg intake. They're going to be sources of carbohydrates for fuel and lots of other nutrients. So definitely something that's your homework probably I'm going to give you, because I just know that fiber is something that nearly everybody here listening to me is probably missing out on to some degree. Excuse me. So that's something to have a look into. The next macronutrient I want to talk about is protein. Excuse me, guys. A bit of a frog in my throat now. Protein is a nutrient that helps us keep strong. It is something I'm going to talk about in the coming workshops, because we're going to talk about something called muscle wastage as we age. It's a condition called sarcopenia, and it does affect a lot of Irish adults. And it's something that starts happening in your 30s. So it's definitely one for everybody. But just to introduce the macronutrient protein, it's something that we can get from our diet. I know a lot of people are gone kind of cracked on high protein drinks and crisps and bars, and every kind of food seems to have protein added to it these days. You can definitely get all the protein you need from your food, but protein is responsible for a whole host of functions in our body, not just growing big muscles. It's part of our hormonal function, it's production of enzymes, lots of other things as a signaler, it's transporter in our body. So we definitely need to make sure we're getting enough in our diets. But it's just to make sure that we know that we can get enough through our diet. We can get enough of vegetarian and vegan as well. We just need to carefully plan it. Some good sources here as well. Again, we're always back to the pictures. So for your lunch and dinner, for women, you can go with about a pan. That's about 20 grams. If you have like a chicken breast that fits around there, a piece of fish, steak, whatever it is, it'll vary, but we don't need to be completely exact with these things. Or we want to kind of push it up to 40, we can go with 2 pounds. Now, what I see is that people either have an inadequate amount of protein, they think they're having enough, or they skip it altogether. So just make sure that you are adding protein with every meal. If you're a pescatarian, of course, you've got fish there, tins of tuna, brilliant sources of protein. Or if you're vegetarian and vegan, you can go with tofu or beans, peas, pulses. Like I said, they have lots of plant protein in them, or something like a meat substitute like corn. So it's just all about planning your diet and being aware and being kind of conscious that you're getting enough with main meals. Now, not only that, we're going to recommend that you get your snacks in as well. So things like beans, nice little bit of protein there. Again, you can see, guys, these are doubling up. Like, look, with a half a tin of beans, you're covering off a fiber source and a protein source now, because this is where these kind of staple foods are good to have in your diet because they cover a lot of your bases. High protein yogurts, really good. There's so many varieties out there now. Quark pots, things like this, they're not expensive. Having one a day and you're boosting up your protein intake by 15 to 20 grams. Cheese, jerky, eggs, staple again. Couple of eggs a day, absolutely perfect, very healthy. Nuts and seeds has protein in them as well. If you're struggling with protein intake and you don't think you're getting enough, excuse me, you can supplement in a protein shake, a whey protein shake. It's very convenient, it's handy to have. Just boost it up by 20 grams if you're just looking for that convenient option. Obviously, we always go for a food first approach though. And another note, just to finish on with protein, this is something that kind of a lot of people wouldn't know, is that you should spread your protein out throughout the day. Like a lot of people I've seen may just have 2 big chicken breasts with lunch and 2 big chicken breasts with dinner, and that's it, my protein done for the day. Protein is best absorbed and utilized in your body when it's spread. So have a source of breakfast, have a source of lunch and dinner, and then have those couple of snacks. So it keeps your amino acid level in your blood high, and they keep feeding your muscles throughout the day. And that's what you're aiming for, just that protein distribution. So it keeps your muscle protein synthesis high throughout the day. The last macronutrient we're going to look at now is your fats. So fat is, again, not so much anymore, but definitely back in the 80s and probably 90s got an awful bad rep. Like low fat diets were very in fashion, very in vogue, we'll say. And everybody cut out fat. We cut out every kind of fat. We started eating margarine in every Irish household as well, which is a crazy thing to do because that's definitely not healthy for us. So with fat, we do need to kind of determine like the good, the bad, the ugly with fats. So the good ones are unsaturated fats, and these are called polyunsaturated fats and monounsaturated fats. And these are the fats that keep our hearts healthy and keep our brains healthy. And where we're going to find those fats are in nuts and seeds. So we've got fiber, we've got protein, and then we've got healthy fats in nuts and seeds. So we can see these are foods you should be having every day. Nuts and seeds, olives, extra virgin olive oil and other seed oils, oily fish like mackerel, salmon. Actually, I know how to say this. To know if a fish is oily, use smash. So salmon, mackerel, anchovy, sardines and herring. That's how you know. So if you use that word smash and count through, that's how you know if it's an oily fish and it's going to contain healthy fats in your diet. Nut butters, seed butters, always very handy. Peanut butter, all real good sources of fat. So definitely, especially with avocado now, we've got healthy fats and we have our high fiber. So these are all the fats you should include in your diet daily. You should have oily fish twice a week. And this is another thing that we don't get enough in Ireland. We do not get enough oily fish. Oily fish contains omega-3s. These are healthy fats, essential fatty acids we can't make in our bodies. So we have to get them from food. Now, most people in Ireland don't eat 2 portions of oily fish a week. And if you do, well done to you. But this, again, could be something you bring in for 2002. So even if you're not doing it at the moment, start small. So years ago in Ireland, we used to have Fridays, we didn't eat meat, we only ate fish. Well, you know what? For whatever reason you want to do it for, that's actually a really good thing for your health. So if you just make one night a week, this is salmon night or oily fish night or whatever fish you want to have, but just make sure it's salmon's obviously, I'm going to use that as an example because it's the easiest one. So that's, salmon night. So Thursday, we all have salmon. Everyone knows what to expect. The kids know what to expect. Partner knows what to expect, or parents or whoever lives with you. Thursday's salmon night. And then that's what you just have every week. It goes into the shop. You don't even think about it. You can dress salmon up a million different ways. And getting those little habits in will ultimately, mean that you're ticking off those boxes, that you're hitting those goals. Ideally, I'd have it twice a week, but even once I'd be happy with. Now, snacking is always a subject I love to cover in the first seminar, because we're all devils for snacking. We're at different times, for whatever reason, we all tend to fall into this trap of snacking our way through the day. It's just how we're designed, because when we snack, we tend to pick high sugar, low nutrient foods that are very moreish. So we'll end up eating lots of them throughout the day. But a real question I always get asked is, why do I snack, or how do I stop snacking, or what makes me snack? I just find myself, I can't stop snacking. Well, a big thing I'll find is poorly timed meals. So it goes back to that eating regularly rule. So if you're not eating regularly and you leave large gaps and you let yourself go very hungry, you could go for snacks. Now you could say, no, Laura, I actually do schedule my breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I eat at the right times. I'm still snacking. Unbalanced meals is another one. And we're going to talk about how to build out a healthy meal in the next workshop. I'm actually going to take you through the pillars and help you really simply realize if your meal is balanced or not, and maybe you need to adjust it. But unbalanced meals is a big one. So maybe you're looking at your dinner, maybe you're not getting enough carbohydrate, maybe you're not getting enough fat, maybe you're not getting enough protein. That can affect your blood sugar levels, that can affect your hormone levels, and maybe lead you to snacking. Stress is a big one. I don't know about you, but I'm definitely one that I eat when I'm stressed. It's a little bit of comfort, it's a little bit of distraction, but stress is a huge one. Mindless eating as well. A lot of us are working from home or sit in front of the television in the evening time and just kind of snack our way through the evening watching TV. Poor sleep is a big one. Now, I'm going to touch on sleep in this workshop, but I'm going to cover it again because sleep is a huge area that's often forgot by people when it comes to their health. Now, I'm not a sleep expert by any means, but it's definitely something that I couldn't go through these workshops without mentioning, because it's so important for us. If you have poor sleep, it will, and this is tons of research shows this, that when you get inadequate sleep, your hormone levels are affected, and essentially the hormone that makes you feel full gets suppressed, and then our hunger hormone actually increases. So snacking is related. When you don't sleep well, you tend to snack more, and that's countless research papers have shown this. And then of course boredom. Eating's a bit of a distraction. It's a bit fun. It can be nice if you choose the right foods. So boredom's a big one as well. So how to counteract this? Okay, how do you improve this? Well, planning your meals and snacks for the day is a big one. A lot of us don't hit nutrition goals or whatever, our goals around eating or whatever our goals around eating, because we don't plan our meals and snacks. We kind of just aimlessly wander through the day, open the press. Do you ever do that thing where you open the fridge, nothing in it that you like, you close it again, and then 10 minutes later you open it again expecting to find something different? Because we're aimlessly wandering through with our eating. And if we can counteract that, if we plan out our meals a little bit better, get a whiteboard in the kitchen going, jot down kind of Monday through even Friday dinner, lunches, it just makes a bit more of a plan. Balancing out our meals, so big one, increasing our complex carbohydrates with our meals, bringing in that energy source. Complex carbohydrates keeps us feeling fuller for longer as well. Hydration. A lot of people snack when they're dehydrated. So distracting yourself is a big one. If you are really, you find yourself that your snacking's out of control, I definitely recommend having a go-to distraction for that. So if you're heading for the kitchen, that you have to walk outside, or you have to take a phone call, or you text somebody, or something that's going to get you out of the mindset of heading for the kitchen for that snack. Buy portion snacks. So this is a good one. So you can buy like little portion snacks of cheese, crackers, raisins, things like this, small bars, small bags of crisps. Instead of opening, big share bag of crisps, having smaller ones, you may just take one instead of opening the big bag and finishing half it. And then out of sight, out of mind. So if you literally open your kitchen presses from where you have the tea bags, and you've all the biscuits and sweets and chocolates sitting there beside it, you're automatically associating tea, chocolate bar. All right. And that's just what we do. So a big one, be out of sight. There's no issue having, chocolate and crisps and sweets. Like I've said this already, but the issue is if it's getting us through the day, if we're snacking our way through the day. So what I'd recommend is that if you keep your tea bags beside your biscuits and you're trying to cut down on biscuits, move the biscuits or move the tea bags. Put the biscuits, in the saucepan press, so that when you do want one, you've got to go through that little extra step and you're like, okay, I'm going to have a biscuit down here, but you may not do it every time you have a cup of tea. And that's something we'll talk about when we talk about kind of behavior change and stuff. Like if you're trying to improve your fruit intake, don't have your apples in the bottom drawer of the fridge, or don't have your bananas the top shelf of your press. Get a big fruit bowl and put it on the middle of your table and fill it. And I guarantee you will up your fruit intake that week, no bother at all, because you're constantly seeing it. You know, you've got to remove, you will always take the kind of path of least resistance to things. So much like if you want to make your fruit bowl really obvious to increase your fruit intake, take your snacks, your less healthy snacks, your less nutritious snacks, and just put them away a little bit. When I grew up, our snacks were hidden away in the garage because my mother knew we'd eat them all. So something like that might be effective for you. So just make it a little bit more difficult for yourself. And then it's not like I don't recommend snacks. I definitely do. It's just that, you know, people associate snacks with the likes of the less nutritious food, crisps, chocolate, sweets, bars. But have healthy snacks in your diet throughout the day, because we do need them. We need them to meet nutrition goals, you know, fiber goals, protein goals, vitamin and mineral goals. But we want to choose more nutritious ones. So like oatcakes and cracker, or oatcakes and cheese, a fruit smoothie, all the fruit you want, beans on toast, popcorn, things like this, nuts and seeds, yogurts, high protein yogurts. These are all healthy, nutritious snacks. They don't have to be all of your snack intake. You can definitely have, you know, a bag of crisps or chocolate bars. No issue with that. But just with these, you're going to get energy, you're going to get vitamins and minerals, fiber, complex carbohydrates, protein intake. So it's just going to help you that a little bit more. On to hydration now. So again, this is, a lot of people will walk around with some degree of dehydration and not realize it. So I have kind of a few simple rules that I'll bring in with, or guidance, we'll say, to bring in with people to help their hydration status. So first in the morning, what I'd recommend is keep maybe not a bottle of water, because I know we're trying to get rid of single-use plastic, and I'm guilty here with one, but a cup of water, a glass of water, or a small bottle, whatever it is, beside your bed. So as soon as you wake up, before you do anything, before you check your phone, whatever, sit at the edge of your bed, whatever you're doing, take a few mouthfuls and start your hydration. Because every morning you wake up dehydrated, that you've been asleep for hopefully 8 hours, and you will wake up dehydrated. So take a few mouthfuls, take a glug, try and get a few 100 mils in, and do that. Have that rule. Hydrate before you caffeinate, before you reach for your coffee, before you reach for your tea. Get a little bit of water into you, get a pint of water, whatever it is, you will feel the better for it. Your targets should be about 1 liter per 25 kilograms of body weight. So, you know, the average man's around 75 kilos, so about 3 liters. So average woman in around, you know, we'll say 60, 65 kilos. So it's just over 2 liters. Essentially, you can look at your urine, and I'll talk about that in a second, but it's just, we give these rough guides because it's very subjective how much you actually need, but you should be able to tell by how often you go to the toilet. If you've got a high fruit and veg intake, that will contribute to your fluid intake. Remember that. So again, beating that drum, more fruit, more veg. Salad veg will have loads of water in it, so like you'll get fluids in that way. If you're someone that doesn't like drinking bottles of water, doesn't like drinking glasses of water, and I know lots of people that don't, that's no issue. Please don't, you know, forcing yourself to drink it. There's nothing wrong with taking a little bit of sugar-free cordial, My Wadi, Ribena, whatever you like. Try and make it sugar-free, just because you're going to be drinking a lot of it, just for our teeth health. So a little bit of sugar-free cordial. If it makes it more palatable for you and you're going to drink more of it, that's the goal. All right. We're not going to, I know a lot of people some people get stressed about that and say it's not healthy to have cordial. It's as much of a trade-off now, guys. I'd rather you try and get hydrated first and then worry about the cordial. If you're having such a small amount of it, it doesn't make a huge difference. And then, of course, if you're working out more, which a lot of us are doing in January, be sure to rehydrate. A lot of people will go to the gym, sweat buckets, come home and go to bed without drinking anything, and then you're even more dehydrated. Chronic dehydration, it's not good for us. And what I mean by that is, you know, you can get thirsty and drink, but if you're constantly dehydrated, and you do it day after day, week after week, month after month, you will see some ill health. Like your kidneys won't be as good as they should be, or they won't be as strong as they should be. Your skin will show it. Your energy levels will show, because to absorb and store carbohydrates for fuel, we need to use some water. To break down protein, we need to use water. So our systems they don't work as well. Like if anybody here has suffered from a hangover, which I'm sure a lot of you have, that's mainly because of not only alcohol toxins, but chronic dehydration. All right. That's very, very bad dehydration. So, you know, if you have that on a mild state constantly, it's just not good for you. So if you look at this lovely P chart here, if anybody's never seen a P chart, this is it, a urine chart. We're always looking to be in around 1, 2, or 3, preferably 1 or 2. You're not looking for a completely colorless urine. You want a little tint of a straw yellow color there, pale yellow color. If you're around this, start drinking a little bit of water. If you're down here, guys, you need to start drinking some water quickly. You're very dehydrated. This is very bad, you know, kind of, I suppose, Stephen's Day hangover stuff down here. So just get some water into you. You're definitely, if you add a little bit of orange juice into it, a little bit of salt, no harm either if you're chronically dehydrated, to get those electrolytes back up again as well. But it's a good, always check your urine when you're going to the toilet, at least once a day, just to see where you're at. Now, if you're drinking so much that you're going to the toilet every 20 minutes, you know, slow down. You don't need that much. But definitely you want to be going for a pee maybe every 90 minutes or so, every 2 hours. You definitely shouldn't leave like 3, 4, 5 hours without going to the toilet. That shows that you're a little bit dehydrated, that you need to get some fluid in. Looking a little bit at winter wellness, guys, in the last couple of topics for this evening. So winter is a time that we tend to get a little bit run down. We've all the festivities of Christmas. December is quite an indulgent month. Then we come into January and we're trying to overhaul everything. But we do need to make sure we're looking after our health during the winter. And the main thing I would say, there's not a huge amount of things you need to focus on that you can't get from food. But what I would look at is looking at taking a vitamin D supplement throughout the winter months. And the kind of rule we'll look around for vitamin D supplementation is from Halloween to Patrick's Day. Taking a vitamin D supplement throughout these months, because we don't, in Ireland, we don't get enough sun. Even if you're outside, you probably won't get enough sun. And we tend to be lower on with our vitamin D status throughout those winter months. So I do recommend that you go and get your levels checked with your doctor. That is before you take anything. That's the general recommendation. And they'll be able to tell you where your vitamin D is at. And then you don't need to spend a huge amount of money on a supplement, but I will recommend that you do take one that has been proven to work. And I can recommend one of those if you like. But the second thing we're looking at are you eating less vegetables than you do so during the summer months? A lot of people during the winter, they may cook less. They may order takeaways more. This is what the research has shown. Winter is a darker time of the year. It's a time where I suppose we're kind of hibernating a little bit ourselves. So some of us do tend to eat less veg during the month. It's being aware of that. Kind of bringing in a couple of things maybe that helps with that, like batch cooking soups, or I don't know, ensuring that you have a fruit smoothie once a day, something that you make sure that keeps up those veg intake. Or even, are you getting less exercise than you do during the summer months? A lot of people will get less steps because they're not as active in the evening time. They may play a sport during the summer that doesn't happen during the winter. Whatever it is, just be aware of, are there variants in your seasonal activity? So do you do less, and do you maybe eat a little less nutritiously during the winter than you do during the summer? And just being aware of that can help you actually up your levels in both those areas then. And just looking at those supplements, because a lot of people will ask me, what supplements should I be taking? Do I need to take a multivitamin? Do I need to take a zinc or magnesium vitamin? Realistically, we don't recommend a supplement for anything unless there's a reason to for that individual. So there's a few reasons to take a supplement, and that's if you've been advised to by trusted medical professionals. So if you're working with a registered nutritionist or a dietitian or your GP, and they've recommended that you take a supplement because they've seen that there's an area in your diet that's low in a certain nutrient, absolutely. Or if you have a specific food intolerance, or you've I suppose that you do not eat a specific food that contains a specific vitamin or mineral. And what I mean by that is that if you're a vegan, maybe you don't get enough B12, and maybe you've got anemia and you have to take an iron supplement. So that's the reasons to take a supplement. Now, there's reasons not to take a supplement as well. Don't take a supplement to lose weight. They don't work. That's flatline from me. I told you there's no BS with me. Supplements for weight loss don't work. So please don't fall down that trap. Please don't waste your money, your time, your emotional integrity, anything like that. Don't take a supplement because you think you have a poor diet. That's also not a reason. So don't think, oh, I don't eat any fruit and veg. You know what I'll do? I'll take a multivitamin. That's not really how it works either. That's not the best way forward. That's not building good, lifelong, healthy habits. It's kind of like putting a plaster on a bullet wound, to be honest with you, because we don't know the bioavailability of those vitamins. We don't know what you actually need. We don't know if they're going to be utilized by your body. And then the last one, definitely do not take a supplement because you see some celebrity or social media influencer or anything like that taking one, or if they're selling it to you. That is not a good idea either. There's 2 supplements that I actually do recommend: vitamin D, like we've just discussed, and omega-3s. Now, I didn't mention that earlier on. I'm mentioning omega-3s as a supplement because although I've pleaded with you all to maybe bring in salmon Thursdays or Tuesdays or whatever it is in your house, a lot of you maybe won't do that. Okay. And I will recommend that if you don't have oily fish eaters in your house, if you've got people that don't like it or you don't like it, please find a good omega-3 supplement and take it, because like I said, omega-3s are EPA and DHA, and these are 2 fatty acids that we can't make in our bodies, but they are so vital for our cognitive function, for our heart health, for inflammation, for joints. They're associated with a whole host of important biological functions. And if we don't get enough, we're just not at our healthiest. So please look at an omega-3 supplement if you're not already taking one, or if you don't eat oily fish. There are at-risk populations that do require certain vitamins, or certain supplementation of vitamins and minerals. So like I mentioned just there, vegans, they're at risk of low B12. So if you're vegan, get your B12 levels checked. You may need a B12 injection. Some vegans I know would get a regular B12 injection, so just be aware of that. Vegetarians are the same. So the vitamin B12 is mainly only found in plant-based foods, or the opposite, animal-based foods. So do be aware if you're vegan or vegetarian that you may, low B12 presents itself like anemia. So fatigue, paleness, dizziness. So just be aware of that, and do go to your doctor. Don't just take an iron tablet because you think you have anemia. Never take a supplement just because you think you have something. Do go to your doctor, get your blood levels checked before you take a supplement. Any women suffering with menorrhea or anemia, we need to look to iron. And women of childbearing age should be taking a folic acid. If they get enough folate in their diet, that's fine, but you won't know how, unless you're tracking your diet, you probably won't know that. So anybody that's trying for a baby, or any woman of childbearing age that's sexually active, should take a folic acid supplement as well. Just the last topic for this evening, guys, and I really appreciate your attention so far. We're nearly there. Just the last topic is talking about sleep. And like I said, I'm no sleep expert. I would never claim to be one. That's not the area that I studied. But sleep is so important for our health, and it is overlooked by lots of people, and lots of people don't even focus on sleep for health. And there's a horrible, I suppose, maybe mentality out there that, sleeping's nearly for the lazy, and, we got to get to the grind. I got up at 4:30 this morning and I went to bed at 2, and, I worked all day, and then I went to the gym, and then I went to training, or whatever it is. Sleep is so important for so many aspects of your health. When you don't get enough sleep, it's linked to weight gain, because like I discussed, it affects your appetite. It affects how you burn fat at rest as well. Long-term poor sleep increases your risk of heart disease and stroke. It affects your mood. And then it affects, inadequate sleep does affect fertility. It does affect libido as well. So I'm only introducing the topic tonight. I will discuss more of it in the later workshops, but it is so important for all these different aspects of our health. And it is something that if you're not currently getting enough of, or if you're just not kind of fussed with it, if you're like, I go to bed whenever, I get up whenever, I'm not too worried. If I can get you sleeping half an hour more this month, and then through maybe, get just even an hour more by the end of 2020, I will be delighted, because I know how important sleep is. It's definitely something that I'm always trying to improve, because it doesn't come as easy to me as, say, nutrition does. So I do recommend that you start working on your sleep as well. And how we improve our sleep a little bit would be avoiding blue lights or screen exposure. So our phones, big one, blue light exposure. Often a lot of us will sit in bed looking at an iPad or looking at our phones. I do recommend turning down the screen brightness on your phone from nearly late afternoon onwards, or avoiding blue lights altogether. Having a routine really helps us get in. So a big thing, even if you can't get more sleep, and I know anybody with a child or a baby is literally cursing at me through the screen now saying, well, you don't know what I have to deal with. I totally understand that. But even trying to get to bed at the same time and getting up the same time every day can be very helpful for you, because your body gets into that routine. Your circadian rhythm kind of gets in a little bit of balance. So if you can at least try and go to, even if you can't, you have to go to bed at 12:30 and you can't go any earlier, even if you can just go in the set time every night, that can be very beneficial for you. And a routine will help with that. Creating a nice, ideal sleep environment. We sleep for about a third of our lives, okay? And the amount of people out there that will sleep with a lumpy mattress or a duvet they don't like, or a scratchy pillow, or sheets that they don't really care for. Invest in your bedroom, spend a little bit of extra money on a good mattress, some nice pillows, blackout blinds, a nice duvet for the winter and a different one for the summer, things like that. Creating a really nice sleep environment for yourself is worth the investment. Okay, just makes it a little bit more comfy. It'll help you maybe rest better, go through the right we have different sleep deep sleep and light sleep and REM. It'll help you go through your sleep stages better. So I do recommend put a little bit of money into, if you can, into your own sleep environment. Winding down the evening is a big one as well, kind of making a little bit of a relaxed time. I wouldn't advise any, and I know a lot of people may be like exercising later in the evening. It's not something I'd recommend, just because it does heighten your adrenaline levels when you're exercising at high intensity. It increases your heart rate. If you can just avoid that if possible, or bring your exercise to a little bit earlier in the day, it'll help with your sleep. Reducing caffeine, guys, this is a huge one. A lot of my clients that will discuss their sleep patterns, they'll maybe tell me that they'll struggle to sleep at nighttime, and then we'll go through, well, their food diaries, what they have every day. And a lot of people will have caffeine quite late into the evening. And if you have trouble sleep, if you've no trouble sleeping, all well and good. A lot of people have high caffeine thresholds. But if you're someone that can't sleep at nighttime and you're having your last cup of coffee at 4:00, that's your issue. Okay. Caffeine has a half-life of about 12 hours, which means that it's still in your system 6 hours later. So, if you're someone that struggles to sleep at nighttime, cut caffeine out before 1 p.m. All right. And then if you're telling me then, well, actually, no, I can't because I'm too tired in the afternoon and I need caffeine to keep me awake, then you're not eating properly. Okay. So don't use caffeine as a stopgap to get you through the day, or don't use caffeine as a crutch, because it's going to affect your sleep. Then you're in this horrible cyclic pattern of not sleeping, depending on caffeine for sleep, not sleeping again. So you got to fix it. All right. So make sure that you're including more energetic foods like complex carbohydrates in your main meals. Try and reduce the coffee. Tea has caffeine in it as well. So anybody that loves 3 or 4 cups of tea in the afternoon, that's nearly a coffee in itself. So be aware of these things. Switch to decaf, switch to herbal teas. Don't rely on it for energy. That's the big one, big red flag. If you're relying on caffeine for energy, you need to address something in your diet. And then if you do want to take a cat nap during the day, no issue with that at all. I'm a big fan of naps. If you find yourself that you're so tired you need a nap, try and have a nap. That'll help you catch up on some of your sleep and maybe help you rely less on different stimulants to get you through the day as well. So guys, just a quick recap on what we covered. Again, I'm nearly delighted with myself because I finished bang on the hour, and anybody that knows me knows I talk so much that rarely happens. But we did talk about nutrition for optimal health. So we looked at kind of finding the balance there, looking at our nutrients, keeping our body fueled with good carbs, complex carbs, high fiber carbs, our essential nutrients like carbs, fats, fiber, protein, looked at snacking, supplements, and then an introduction to sleep. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy, pop them in the chat box there, and I'll actually start going through some of the ones on the list. If anybody has any questions for me, you can get me on Instagram at Bridge Nutrition, or you can email me, laura@bridgenutrition.ie. So I'm just going to actually jump into a couple of the questions on the list, or maybe I'll pull up the questions here in the chat box. Jeanette's actually asking a brilliant question there. Thanks, Janet. She's saying, Laura, I'm just wondering if there's caffeine in green tea. There is. It's actually a little bit higher than black tea. So do be aware if you're having kind of green tea in the evening time as a substitute, or you're trying to bring in, more antioxidants or anything like that in your green tea, that there is caffeine in it. So it may stimulate you later on in the evening. And let me jump into the list there. You can pop any questions you have, guys, into that chat box, and I'll start working through them. But just in the list, Sarah asked, how do I know if I'm eating enough or too much? Well, if you're overeating on what you need, I would say that you'll probably see some weight gain. That's usually what happens. We have an energy imbalance. We will be talking about weight loss and muscle gain in a later workshop as well. So just be aware of that. If you're eating too much, you will see some weight gain. So maybe you just need to dial back on some snacks or maybe your portions again, which we'll be covering. Sorry, Ashling's she typed in there saying, let me move this around so I can see it. I prefer to cook fresh, batch cook, but I can't always find the time, end up making poor choices or just not eating all. Any tips? I would say with that, you need to have kind of 3 or 4 recipes that you can make out of like stuff in the back of your press that takes 5 minutes. And I would say I like to call myself proficient in making very fast, easy meals. So we will cover that. We're going to cover kind of how to healthy eating made simply. That's what I'm going to call the topic, and I will cover that. But essentially, it's about throwing 3 or 4 things together that still make it's maybe not the most nutritious meal you can have, but it's definitely better than not eating or getting a takeaway. Sheila's asking a good question there. What is the evidence around inadequate nutrition causing loss of the menstrual cycle? So this is actually an energy balance issue. So if you see, if you lose your period or you see an irregular period, it may be that you're not eating enough or that you're over exercising. Davina there, what's the best meal snacks to aid recovery after GAA game? Big pint of milk. I will cover that as well. And when we talk about, we're going to cover a little bit about exercise, but yeah, milk and dairy products are great for recovery. Big bowl of cereal. You want your carbs back in as well. So fruit smoothie. I'd be a big fan of fruit smoothie made with an apple, banana, honey, yogurt, and milk after a match myself. Let me see here. Just people thanking me there. Thank you very much, guys. Marie, how to maintain weight and strong bones. So strong at 70, strong bones. We're actually going to cover a little bit on nutrition as we age in the coming seminars. So Marie, definitely go into that because we're going to talk about sarcopenia, and I'm going to talk about the micronutrients you need as we age as well. So we'll cover that then. Eve is saying, I started taking my vitamin D after a long break, late 2022, and advice from doctor. So I've been taking it every day for a year. Would it be sensible to reduce it down? St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, it could be, because you will get more but you need to make sure you're out in the sun, obviously during the winter months, during the summer months. But I would go back for another blood test just to see what they're at, to see if the doctor's happy with where your vitamin D levels are. And then if your vitamin D levels are up, you can come off it. Make sure you're getting the sun exposure, and that should keep it up. But I would monitor it as well. Leah said, hi Laura, I'm not sure if you've heard of Revive Active. Is this a supplement beneficial or not worth taking if with a balanced diet? If you have a balanced diet, you don't need any supplements. That's the brass tacks, guys. Bar vitamin D. Of course, I have to keep jumping back on myself. Bar vitamin D. If you've got a balanced diet, you don't need supplements. And and I know there's many companies out there, billion-dollar companies that sell supplements that probably will argue against me, but look, the brass tacks is we take a food first approach with our nutrition. If we need to fill holes in terms of like if you're anemic and you need an iron supplement, if you don't get out in the sun, you need a vitamin D supplement, that's fine. But we look to our food first of all. So Karen's come in there saying, my 15-year-old son told by GP to put on weight. How's the best approach about this without eating junk food? Great one, Karen. Smoothies, okay? Get a smoothie, but get some peanut butter in there, some oats, full fat milk, full fat yogurt, and a couple of pieces of fruit. And even one of those a day with the right, like we're talking 2 tablespoons of peanut butter in there, get it in. And that should be about maybe 1,000 calories. And if he can eat that on top of his regular diet, because it's only a smoothie and it's quite nutritious, but it has really calorie dense foods in it, like, the peanut butter, full fat dairy, that should help bring his weight up without focusing on junk foods. Let me see here. So guys, we will be back next week, remember, same time, and you will hear from Fingal through an email for the link to the webinar, but we will be back here this time. We're going to cover off more topics around winter wellness. Marianne's asking, when did you eat your last meal snack of the day? Any tips to keep off hunger in the evening? This is totally up to you. A lot of people have this notion you can't eat after 8 p.m. It's the same calories, it's the same nutrients, but like I wouldn't recommend that you have a big steak dinner getting into bed, because if you're digesting a big meal, it tends to disrupt your sleep a little bit, might actually make you dream a lot more. That's a big one. So that kind of disrupts your sleep. It also slows your digestion, slowed when you're asleep, so it might take longer. So just you might see you might feel great. So it's totally up to you when you have your last meal or snack, but I'd recommend kind of your last main meal at least 2 hours before sleep, if not more. And then a nice snack would be like in the evening time, a slice of kind of half a tin of beans, maybe, and a slice of toast, a bowl of cereal, a bowl of porridge, maybe like rice pudding with some seeds and nuts and chocolate chips or something like that. Or, you can really have anything, but I'd recommend something that's going to give you some protein and maybe a portion of fruit as well. And with that, but it's really up to yourself. If to keep off hunger in the evening, I recommend you eat. If you're hungry, you eat, but just it's all about what you actually choose. Brilliant, guys. I think that's all of the questions. A lot of thanks coming in. I really appreciate, you guys have been brilliant. Super. To the attendance stayed up the whole way through, so that means that everyone was kind of hanging on for me. Melissa's asking there about registering for the next one. Steve, and you can probably jump in on that for me.
Yeah. So Melissa, you read my mind. So if you're registered now, I'll just keep sending you the links for the next 3. And if it's a topic that you're interested in, we'll see you here. If it's not, we'll see you at the next one. So once you're registered now, you're in, so don't worry about it. You don't have to re-register again. So Laura, thanks a million for that tonight. Really, really good. As someone who definitely fell off the wagon over Christmas, that's a great way to get myself sorted again. So some really interesting stuff there. And she has on her slide there about her Instagram page, there's some great recipes and tips on that as well. So do check that out. I'm looking forward to trying the Rosti.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. The new recipe. Good. Yeah, I can. That got the seal of approval in my house now, so definitely recommend it.
And what I'll do is, guys, just there's a question there from Kira about the recording. If you can't attend, we'll put the recording up, and I'll send you the link for the recording during the week as well, probably maybe by the Wednesday. So if you can't make it, don't worry, we'll have it recorded as well. And yeah, so thanks a million, Laura, for tonight. Thanks for everyone for coming along. Really, really good. As you said, kept the attendance up the whole night, which was a great sign that everyone's interested and engaged. So fair play.
Cheers, guys. And thanks everybody for joining us. Hopefully we'll see you all next week again. Okay.